So, welcome to A Little Peace and Quiet today. It's a very special day for me. I've got one of my heroes, although I'm sure she wouldn't see herself as a hero, Byron Katie on the line. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with Byron Katie, when I see her introduced, usually people start with her worldly achievements. But I think the biggest achievement, although I'm sure Katie will tell me that it just happened, it wasn't an achievement at all, is that Katie has woken up out of the dream of thought and experiences reality as it is. On top of that, she's written several best-selling books, including Loving What Is, 1,000 Names for Joy, which I love, I Need Your Love, Is It True? And one I don't hear mentioned much when she's interviewed, which is Tiger, Tiger, Is It True? And if you're a parent, you should definitely buy that. And if you want to teach your kids about how to be happy, you should read it yourself, live it, and then share it with them so that they can say, oh, that's what you do, Dad. Now, Katie is just like you. She's just like all of us, except that in 1986, she had a profound experience of waking up out of thought after severe depression for years and years. She woke up and realized something really simple, which is that when you believe what you think, it hurts. And when you don't believe it, it doesn't. And happiness is there. So since then, Katie's shared her work all over the world, and I would say it seems like, Katie, it's just what you do. Is you travel, you share this, and you make it available to as many people in an as accessible form as possible. So, welcome, Katie. Thanks for being here today.
Oh, it's my privilege. But it is. It is. It just seems to be my job to just make sure as many people know that it exists as possible. And this I, as we say, is or I, as I just said, I think. um, I look back on all that suffering that you pointed to, Ollie. It's I saw that it was complete illusion. That pain is pain. When it hurts, it hurts. Who cares whether it's an illusion or not? And people in this world, people have a right to know that the everything they need to get free is inside of them, not their teacher, not something outside of them. That's beautiful also. But the wisdom that matters is inside of them, and it's just it's just an is it true away.
So I wanted to ask you a little about, and for anyone who's not familiar with the work, please pause, go to thework.com, download a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, fill it in, and just sit with that as you listen to this, because it will make a lot more sense, it'll be much more powerful, or don't, and it'll work too. But I wanted to ask you about, in 1986, I've heard lots of people ask you about, read lots about that moment of waking up. And I wondered, was that just an instant waking up that never left you, or was there a process you went through of questioning those old beliefs and undoing what was there?
Both. In that moment, I saw that when I believed my thoughts, that was the cause of all my suffering, and it was so profound that whatever that was that saw it, I'll just talk like this. I began to laugh and laugh. It was just like, oh my gosh, why didn't someone tell me? It's just so simple. And it was, it's just remained. But the dream is powerful. What we're believing is, that's everything. It's everything. It's all encompassing, and it's life, and when we believe what we think, it defines our life. And the ego, to stay defined, it's pretty tricky. So it's very believable to and that when we believe that all these emotions arise out of it, and it's like sitting in a movie, and once we're awake to it, it's like sitting in a movie, and it's exciting. And we've all been to a movie where it was really scary, and we wanted to leave, or it was really sad and we cried. Well, we're watching the images in our head and the thoughts that we're believing about those images. Then it really is, we're sitting in a movie. And it's even the movie of us. I've never seen myself. We only see ourselves through those images in our head that we don't even know. We don't even realize they're going on. They're so believable.
So you had that experience, you had all that laughter, and then what happened over the following weeks, months?
Worksheets happened.
Yeah.
Worksheets happened. It was like I would experience the emotions, and I had the original experience, and I would see what I was believing, and all of a sudden the laughter was gone.
Yeah.
And it was just fascinating. It's like watching something you've never met before react, like a puppet on a string or something. And so that's personal and not. I mean, just because we don't identify with this thing as I doesn't mean that we're not absolutely just fascinated by it, as we're still witnessing some of that. But for example, if maybe one of my children maybe I was sitting and I was still, and maybe one of my sons came in and opened the window and it was noisy, and I might have the thought, he's so considerate. Doesn't he see that I want to be still? And those thoughts, I didn't make them happen. They would just come. And then the emotions with them. So Ollie's short story, I was so connected with everything, and mind is everything. If there's anything at all, that's it. The first and the last. I would identify them like that and write it down, and that's where the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet came from. Okay. I would put those thoughts on paper and question it, and it's like I left the dream with the dream, or I could say the dream with the dream left. But I sometimes I think my words are so jumbled, and anytime you need to stop me, just do.
Sure.
But I just want people to know that it was not. I had a long way to go, and I can also say I'm a baby, I'm a beginner, I'm an infinite. Mind is infinite, and if I had the thought I'm enlightened, I would have to laugh. I don't even know what it is. Am I free? Yes. In this moment, so far, so good.
Yep. And I think it's an interesting point, because a lot of my listeners are people who've been studying meditation and mindfulness, and I think it's really easy when you start that kind of practice to carry this belief of an I with you into it, and think that I'm doing this practice because then I'm going to become like Buddha or like Jesus or like Katie.
That's just like saying I'm going to change my identity that other people prefer more than this one.
Yeah.
Or I prefer more than this one. And it's just another trick of mind, isn't it?
That's right. So those tricks of mind, I remember when I started learning meditation, I carried that I into it completely, and I read about enlightenment, and I thought, I want that too. That sounds really good. I don't want this pain. I don't want this suffering. I want enlightenment, so I'm going to meditate. So I didn't realize it at the time, but straight away I had a future goal. So I was continuing that projection. Yeah, and I was projecting the past. Yep. And projecting the past. So projecting the past into the future, as you talk about. So when we look at what causes stress, it's what I eventually realized was that as a world, we've got it completely upside down. That I believed that all these things outside of me were causing stress. And then in response to that stress, I was thinking about those things. And what I realized through sitting still and through your work is that when the thought arises and I believe it, then I separate myself from my true nature, and that hurts.
Yes, exactly so. It's in direct opposition of what matters, a direct opposition. But the ego would lead us to believe that that's the theory, and what we're into is the real thing, like I. Right?
Yeah. So for anyone out there, if you're thinking that you're unhappy because of your partner, or you don't have enough money, or your job, or whatever, then if you get still and you go inside and you watch where the pain's actually arising, you notice that the pain arises in me. It doesn't arise out in the world and then infiltrate me somehow. So therefore, the solution's in you too.
Yeah, that's so clear. It's not, the world is perfect as it is. It's what I'm believing about the world that could use a little work.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And we all carry, or we're all born with, or we learn this kind of time machine that we have in our head that is constantly looking at the past, projecting into the future, and creating alternative realities. And one thing that I've noticed and that I love about your work, Katie, is how it's so clear and simple. Reality just is as it is, and you can either argue with it or you can embrace it.
Yeah. You can argue with it or question it. And out of the answers that meet those questions, that embrace, it's just a falling into it. It's beyond what really can be told. It's a joining to what you've never really separated from.
So for anyone who's not familiar with the work, I wonder if we could just take a quick tour of the process. And I hope you've all got a Judge Your Neighbour worksheet or a One Belief at a Time worksheet, and that you're sitting there looking through it. But Katie, could you just give us a quick cook's tour of what is the work? How does the process work?
First, there's a Judge Your Neighbour worksheet, and that was dictated right out of my head. In other words, it's like, or it could be out of anyone's head, and it really is. It's like I'm angry or I'm upset or my feelings are hurt because, and that's fill in statement one, and then the next statement on the Judge Your Neighbour worksheet is I want, and the others are I need, I want, he should, he shouldn't, he is, she is, I am. They're basically just how the mind works. I don't ever want to, and it's just how the mind works. So if you're ever angry or hurt, or you've had any kind of dispute, you just get still and close your eyes and have one of these worksheets in front of you, and just go back to that situation. It could be 20 years ago, it could be yesterday, it could be 10 minutes ago, it could be this moment now. But go back to that moment when you felt those emotions, and it doesn't have to be this huge big deal. Just trivial moment can blow your mind. It's just, and we're less, the ego's less invested in it also, so it's really powerful. So no, don't wait for a big deal. Just a minor rub with somebody. But it can be anything. But you go back to that moment in time, that situation, you close your eyes, and hopefully you're all doing that now. Just close your eyes and notice that moment and feel into it. What emotions were you experiencing? And I'll go back to my son opened the window when I was being still, and it was just so obvious I wanted to be still, and it was so obvious it was noisy outside. He didn't even ask me, he just opened the window, and So, okay, I'm sitting there and I'm taking a breath and noticing that the breath is taking me and just being still. And I get in touch with those emotions, those feelings that I felt. And I was so quick to judge, I wasn't in touch with them at the time. So now's the time. And it's huge. And it just happened so quickly, that moment. And now I'm taking my time with it. It wasn't just a moment in time. It was a huge rush. Is that what anger feels like? Righteous indignation? Okay, so I'm angry. Why was I angry? Because he opened the window. I'm angry at my son because he opened the window. So now I've got statement number one. It's filled in. Okay, now closing my eyes, just very, very still. What did I want? In that moment, in that situation, I can see me sitting on the couch. I want him to see that I want him to see that he's bothering me. Wow, good one. It had nothing to do with the window. I want him to see that he's a bother. My own son? Okay, got to write it down. It was there. And then I just, I am meditating on that moment. That's what's going on. And then I go to statement 3. What advice would I offer him to get what I want in that moment? What advice would I offer him? He should apologize. He should close the window. He shouldn't be so, what is it? Insensitive. Ugh. Huh? My own son. Yep. Okay, so then I go to the next one on the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. What did I need in that moment? What did I need to be happy? I'm feeling that thing, so bothered. He opened the window. Okay, now to go from that emotion to happy, what do I need from him? Okay. What do I need him to say, do, be, feel, or think? So I'm going to collect what I was believing in that moment. I need, and fill it in your own. But it's what we're doing here. When you ask, what is the work? First, we identify the thoughts we're thinking and believing that would bring on the stress, that would bring on the war, that would bring on the literally every war in the world. This is what governments are thinking about other people. There are no new stressful thoughts. And when you identify your own and you put them on the paper, then you understand the world. When you understand yourself, you understand the world. End of mystery. So you continue to fill in this worksheet, and there are 6 statements. And then we take the first one, I'm angry at my son because he opened the window. Okay. There are 4 questions, and then we turn these statements around. So he shouldn't open the window. I'm angry at my son because he opened the window. He opened the window. Is it true? That's the first question. He opened the window, and I'm just going to sit in that, and I'm going to allow the wisdom that I'm asking to meet the question. You understand? He opened the window. I'm so positive he opened the window. I see it in my mind's eye. He opened the window. Is it true? Where's my proof? Well, it's in my head. Is that a window? No. Looks like a window, but that's air. It's nothing. It's not even air. You can't even touch it. I am allowing imagination. The moment I believe it implies that window of time that you pointed to, Ollie. It's like a past. Where's my proof of the past? Oh, I see it. It's in my mind's eye.
Yeah, I know that's true.
He opened the window. There it is. There's my proof. There's my proof in my head. Can't see it, can't touch it, can't. Crazy, huh? So he opened the window. Is it true? Okay, I'm witnessing the images. Yes, it's true. Can I absolutely know that it's true? Let's see. He opened the window. In that moment in time, he opened the window. Is it true? I have all the proof there. So you're going to find the most amazing things when you sit in this.
So
you're gonna, the ego's gonna convince you that imagination is real, and it can never be.
And we're so
It can never be.
When our mind's unquestioned, we're so sure that we're right, that that's how it happened, that that's what they meant, that that's what they wanted out of that situation. If you think of a time, anyone who's watching or listening, if you think of a time recently where someone slighted you, or you felt offended by something someone did or didn't do, and you look at what your mind is saying about that, you'll see that we know not only exactly what they did, but we also know why they did it, how they intended to hurt us, what kind of person they are because of that. And when we're so fixed on that, there's no room to move.
Yeah, and we think we know all these things, and then we question them, because what we are thinking, what we think we know about life, is now on a sheet of paper in that moment in time. And then as you, the first question is it true? Second question, can you absolutely know that it's true? Third question, notice how you react when you believe the thought. And that's huge. Did I give him the look? Did I punish him in any way? Was I cold? Was I distant? Did I separate? I completely lost connection. It was just, there's so much in that. How did I react? How do I react when I believe the thought? The window's more important than a human being. A window's more important than my son. Whether it's open or closed, and my privacy, it's so crazy just noticing. And then fourth question, who would I be in that moment? This takes mindfulness. It takes stillness. Who would I be in that moment? And I'm witnessing that moment, always in the moment, in that situation, witnessing who would I be in that situation when he's opening the window without that thought. It's huge.
So
completely connected. Hearing the sounds come through the window that I would miss otherwise. Seeing that he's doing me a favor. He didn't come to ruin my day. And whether it was a favor or not, I see that look on his face that I missed. He was just giving me fresh air. I could go on and on and on. And then we turn it around. He opened the window, turned around, he didn't open the window, and there's room for a lot of enlightenment there. And if I opened the window, how many times have I opened the window carrying that grudge? Using an image of him, we could say, to keep that window open, and me stay resentful over an image in my head.
So if you're listening or watching, you see that with question 3 and 4, we're flipping our usual way of looking at things, because normally we look at, we think about what would life be like if he hadn't opened the window, whereas we're talking about, and what's life like because he opened the window. Here we're talking about what is life like when you're believing that thought, and what would it be like without anything changing except your mind, without being able to think that thought. How would you experience that moment?
Yeah. It's like window open, perfect. Window closed, perfect. No difference. That's loving what is.
So in that moment, we step back into our own power, because before that, he had all the power for our happiness. It was all about he had to be more considerate. We needed him to change. We need the world to change. It's completely hopeless. Whereas in that worksheet, in that moment, we're back in the driver's seat, it seems like.
Yeah, well, clarity is like that. Enlightenment is freedom. Clarity is freedom. And freedom is freedom. But with the thought, I suffered. And I caused him suffering. And without the thought, I'm grateful. And that's where I'm at my best. And that's when he is at his best, when he's with me, when I'm free. The world is much better off when I'm free, and I certainly am.
So you can also see from Katie's example that we're not talking about an earth-shattering event. We're not talking about, but we are talking about an earth-shattering event because everything is.
Yeah, it was world-shattering. I was so peaceful before he opened the window. And what I can say honestly is I was so peaceful before I put all of my beliefs on that situation. And that was the cause of the suffering, not my son, not the window.
So if you've ever sat in any kind of meditation practice, you'll notice that sometimes you might walk in feeling worried about money or feeling upset with someone, and then you sit, you get still, and then all of a sudden the feeling changes. Now, you don't have any more money. Well, we don't know, but you probably don't have any more money than when you walked in, and yet something in you has changed, and that's where the transformation takes place.
Yeah.
So, and the turnarounds, Katie, can you talk about turnarounds?
Yeah, so we find opposites. He opened the window, turned around, he didn't open the window. Okay, an example, he did not open the window. Okay, my only proof is an image in my head. I can't see the past, I can only see those images. He didn't open the window. Okay, so that leaves me a conversation with him. Sweetheart, yesterday, did you open the window? Let's say it was yesterday. Did you open the window when I was meditating? And if he said yes, I can say, what were you thinking? Did you want me to have fresh air, or you wanted fresh air? What was it? So you see, not only am I connected, but I've got this intimate conversation going on with my son. And it's very different than what I was believing when he opened the window. Night and day. So he opened the window, turned around, I opened the window, yeah. How many times have I used him in my mind's eye to open that window? So those are turnarounds. And, we can get one that's, let's say if I were doing the work on the statement, she doesn't care about me. When I question it and turned it around, she does care about me. And I find examples in that situation, whatever that is. Maybe we had a coffee date together or something. I find examples of she does care about me. She doesn't care about me, another turnaround. I don't care about her. So where is it that I was not caring? Where is it I wasn't caring about her? And it could be I have some amends to make. Another conversation. If there's anything I did that was unkind, I hurt me. And to make that's right, to start over. It could be a conversation, an apology. So she hurt me, another turnaround, she helped me. Okay, well, she brought me to a worksheet. That's one place she helped me. She helped me. She gave me a lot of good advice as we were having coffee that day, now that I can notice that. But, it just goes on and on. Each time we find opposites and we really meditate on those opposites, it's so revealing. Everything in that space that the ego would miss because it's so selective, it shows up there, and we really get in touch with this friendly universe. as opposed to the universe we were believing it to be.
All right. So, and if you want to see the work in action, head to thework.com or head to Katie's YouTube channel, and there's heaps of fantastic examples of people doing the work with Katie that really illustrate this, if it's not quite clear from listening to our conversation.
Yeah. And what I love about the work, these 4 questions and turnarounds, is that there is no place so dark that you cannot go completely deeply into that darkness and take these questions with you. There's nothing that there's no place that you can't go that you could not get free in.
And yesterday, Katie, I was listening to the conversation that you had with a young man from Lebanon. I don't know if that was recently, about finding asylum. And do you remember that conversation?
Maybe if you say a little more.
He was talking about, he'd written you an email about how he was feeling suicidal. He was wanting asylum in the United States. He felt stuck because he was Palestinian and he'd been born in Lebanon.
He was walking downtown New York City. The people weren't friendly. Was it something
No.
like that?
It was, he was born in, his grandparents had fled Palestine and moved to Lebanon, and they'd been stateless for 3 generations. And he was in his 30s, and he was just desperate to get asylum in the United States, and was feeling like, as a refugee, as a stateless person, he couldn't be happy in that situation. He needed to escape it. And it's a fabulous example of what Katie's talking about, of going to dark places. Because when you read his email at the start, I thought, oh wow, this is huge. And then when he started talking about his examples, the example he talked about was a teacher.
Examples of the turnarounds?
Or examples of where he'd felt persecuted. It was like a teacher bullying him at school was what he talked about. And when he talked about the thoughts and what he wanted, I started thinking, okay, I've got all these thoughts too. Like you say, there's nothing new. And even in those situations we see as dire and awful and really different to ours, people's thoughts are essentially the same as we're having.
They are. If someone is going to, let's say they're going to kill me, and they're standing there with a knife, and I'm helpless, there's nothing I can do. It is a perfectly beautiful moment until you consider the thoughts you're thinking and believing. And those thoughts are what create the terror. So if someone says, I'm going to chop off your head, how do I know it's true he's going to do that? Chances are he's telling the truth, but I can't know that. I can't know. He can't even know. No one can know the future.
Yeah.
But in this moment right now, let's say we're out in a forest. I see the trees. I see the sky. I see his face. He's probably terrified. In fact, I've had an experience close to this, and he looked terrified. He was frightening himself. But because I wasn't believing my thoughts, he wasn't chopping off his head. He wasn't going to chop from me, but he had a gun, and he had it in my stomach, and he said he was going to kill me. But it was the most beautiful moment, and I wasn't in any kind of shock or special state of mind. It's just that the moon was beautiful that night.
Yeah.
The clouds, even, it was one of those evenings that you could just see the sky so clearly. It was so lovely. And his little face, that's disrespectful. He was so frightened, and my connection with him was so deep. If you're going to die, why not be happy? Why not die connected? But if I had thoughts like, he's going to kill me, I'm going to die, what about my children, all of that, you know, I'd ruin a perfectly beautiful night. I'd ruin what could be the last moment of my life. And it doesn't seem right to die in terror. But he cannot be the cause of my terror. No one can be the cause of my fear or terror. I like to say, no one can hurt me. That's my job. What I'm thinking and believing, that is all the misery I'm going to suffer. And that's really good news. You know, it means I don't have to change the world. I can start working on me now.
It's much easier.
Yeah, and I'm everywhere I go. So I'm handy dandy. Just work with this.
So, Katie, you've in your books you've talked about that experience of someone pointing a gun at you. You talked about when you were maybe going blind.
In fact, did.
Yep. And you talked about the birth of, was it your grandson?
Yes, my granddaughter.
Your granddaughter, where
Is this the same one we're thinking of?
where she was born not breathing.
Yeah.
And can often people might say, oh well, it's easy for Katie to be happy because she's, it's sunny in California and she's sold all these books, she's got a good lifestyle. Can you talk about some of those experiences and what they were like from your perspective of not believing your thoughts?
Well, in the case of blindness, I wasn't completely blind. I could see some light, but I couldn't see anything else. It just wasn't dark. I had Fuchs dystrophy, and that's a disease where the all the cells in the cornea die, and there's nothing they can do to stop it, and you eventually just can't see. But I could always see, I would imagine a wall in front of me. I would imagine where the next step on the staircase I was walking. I would imagine what my grandchildren looked like. I imagined what my husband, I imagined what they were wearing. All this is going on, and I didn't do it on purpose. There was no time I could not see. No one is blind. And there is a wonderful woman that came to the school for the work that was born blind, and she came to see through inquiry that she could see also. She imagines where the wall is going to be. She imagines where the stair is going to be. She, in her own way, perfectly. We have different images, same thing. Same thing. So no one's blind, no one's deaf. We have beautiful examples of people in the world have gone beyond these things. They realize what some of us haven't realized yet. And so with my granddaughter being born, she wasn't breathing. So the doctor is upset, and other people there are upset. And I have, my grandbaby's born. There she is. She doesn't have to live for me to be happy. She doesn't have to live for me to connect with her. She doesn't have to breathe. I mean, here comes this baby, and we put all these conditions on them. And she was never born. Yes, she was. She never lived. Yes, she did. It's here that everything lives and dies. It is or it isn't. Right here, what we imagine. So, even a baby being born that never breathes, it's like they don't. I guess I could say, sweetheart, that nothing's dead to me. And nothing's alive.
And I love, I can't remember which book you had that story in, but I loved how you said something like, she didn't have to breathe for me to love her.
Yeah, just not necessary. So connected. So connected, so beautiful. It's no conditions. To put conditions on, just, it's crazy. It's crazy. And crazy hurts. And it's what we're believing that is crazy. And we're innocent. We don't believe on purpose. It's like if my mother says this is a tree, it's not in my experience. It's, I'm a little child and I don't even know what a tree is. And she says it's a tree. And I don't even know what she's talking about. But the moment I believe her is the moment the tree enters my life, not 1 second sooner than that. So who created this? I did. And was it my mother's fault? No. No. I believed. Is it my fault? No. I believed. But to question is to go back. It's to go back to the beginning. And that's a beautiful thing.
And when you talked about how countries are doing the same thing as, I think it was in that podcast, you talked about how countries are doing the same thing as what we're all doing.
Yeah, and they're the world leaders. I need, you should, you shouldn't, I don't want to, you shouldn't. It's not fair. I hate it because.
It's all the same stuff.
It's all the same. Nothing new. Nothing new.
Because I had I put out an email to my subscribers about any questions they might want to ask you through me. And one of the things someone asked about, which comes up often, comes up often when I'm talking to people about, when you're living moment to moment. Well, what about morality? What about ethics? What about all of these things?
It's just, I'll just say it this way. I fell into it. I had no idea. My suffering was, to me, the thought is, it's unbearable. I would wake up and the pain was just so great that I hated life. I hated God. I hated whatever was causing all of this. So your question again.
Well, I think people ask about morality and ethics, and if I'm not thinking about what's right and wrong, then how, what's going to happen to me? What will happen to the world if we're not thinking our way through what's right, what's wrong, what should I do next?
So I was so my life was such hell, and so much self-hatred, so much self-loathing, that I really was agoraphobic. And the big deal there was, I thought if someone just looked at me, it would hurt their lives. And that their lives would be worse for it. And I really found myself that terrible. And so it just couldn't be any worse for me. So through inquiry, I had nothing to lose. And it just happened that I was connected. It's like, I want to do good. I want to be a nice person. I want to be loving. I want to be caring. But I was always falling short. So as I questioned my mind, the behavior was the opposite. I became kind. I became caring, connected, understanding. It was just something I fell into. That's the best way I could answer the question. I had no idea that's what I would fall into. I just knew the pain was so great I had nothing to lose. It was like that. But do I have to think my way? I didn't think my way here. It's like I'm driving to the studio to talk with Ollie, and that's so laughable to me because I don't know if I'm going to make it. You never know where a car's going. You never know where you really are. It's just like you're just you just live it out. You witness, you watch this amazing life unfold without having to manipulate it, having to change it. Like my granddaughter, I don't require her to breathe for me to love her. And it's the same way, just driving here to have this time with you. It's a car pulled in front of me. And to slam on my brakes, that's how I got here on time. You can't be 1 or 2 seconds early. Everything on time, and it takes the whole world. This timing, this beautiful apparent mechanism that is more lovely than words can tell. It's just what we're believing about it that would cost us the ease of seeing its true nature.
And so that a lot of the things you talked about relate to the great description that you give to whose business different things are in my life.
The three kinds of
business. Could you talk about that a little?
Well, I found it's something that I offer people just so they can kind of get a handle on the moment. But I could only find 3 kinds of business in all of the universe: my business, your business, God's business. So whose business? Ollie, is it whose business is it what you think about life?
Well, that's my business.
Whose business is it what I think about life?
It's yours.
Okay, so, and then there's God's business. Who knows what God thinks about it? What would be the God of your understanding? But if I am mentally in your business, then there's no one here running my life. It's like, I'm over there with you, you're over there with you, and I'm the sleepwalker. So anytime you feel disconnected or lonely, just ask yourself, as soon as you notice it, ask yourself mentally, whose business am I in? Whose life am I running from here? And it's such wasted effort. They can't see us, they can't hear us, and our whole lives are revolving around that someone else's business.
Yeah. And it seems like relationships particularly are a place where, this plays out everywhere, but it's really in our faces in relationships, where if I'm in my wife's business thinking about what she should be doing, how she should be doing things, she's over in my business thinking about how I should be responding to what she does, then neither of us are actually taking care of our own business.
Yeah, isn't it just wild how it works? But as soon as, for your listeners, as soon as you notice that you feel disconnected or lonely, ask yourself, whose business are you in? It'll bring you back to the present, to right here, right now, this nowness.
Because one thing that people ask me pretty regularly is, how do I teach mindfulness to my partner really needs it, or my child really needs it, or my boss really needs it. And so I think that question, what I usually say is, well, you learn it, and when they come and ask you, how come you're so peaceful? Well, that's your opportunity.
Yeah, that works much better.
Because I've tried the other way and it doesn't work so well. And that question of whose business, I think, is a really great one. Anytime that you think...
It really is. My children, the people in my life, I notice they do what they do, whether I ask them, if I say yes or no, they do what they do. If I say something, they do what they do. If I don't say anything, they do what they do. So I just stay here and have a happy life. Stay in my own business.
Great idea.
And then if people ask me, then I can give them my experience, but I certainly can't give advice.
Yeah, and I love the way, instead of telling people how to live, which would be crazy, the work has come out of you, and then people can figure it out for themselves.
Yeah, another way.
So you wrote one of my, well, all of your books are my favorites. But one of my, one of, and I think you'll love that most of your books that I've bought, I thought I lent to people, but it turned out that I was giving them to them because they've never come back. But one which I really loved, which I got on audiobook recently, was I Need Your Love, Is It True?
It's an amazing book.
Which is a great book about, well, I think at the core it's about our approval seeking and about how that runs our life and how we can untangle that. So could you talk a little about that approval seeking?
Well, I see that book as maybe the most powerful relationship book ever written because, what was it? I was seeing, what was it? Oh, it was a movie, and what isn't? I'll do one now to tell you what the movie is. But it's like, what will he think of me? What should I say? What should I do? To hold this identity, the one I want him to see me as. And so we're always holding this false identity, and let's say I meet someone, we're both very attracted, and I am telling him everything I want him to know about me so he'll see me in a good light. And so when he says, I love you, I cannot believe him because he is saying I love you to the facade that I myself have created and wanted him to believe. So someone says, I really like you, I really love you, and you think, oh, they really don't. Well, how could they? What you have shown them and told them and given them isn't you. It's so what they're loving is the facade, basically. But
and as you say in the book, on the other side of that, then you're thinking, well, I like him, but who is he really?
Yeah, and if he is doing that, if he is giving me himself and out of that facade, the one he wants me to see him as, we fall madly in love and we're married, then all of a sudden I'm seeing who he really is, and he's seeing who I really am, and we wonder why we don't get along. I like to say no two people have ever met. We are just, Ollie, I think that's why I love inquiry so much. We never know what identity we're going to end up as, but we can see how ridiculous the identities that we're questioning away, and as they fall away, it leaves us as really authentic human beings. And we don't even know ourselves. And so the more inquiry we do, the more authenticity we see in ourselves, the more authenticity that we, I don't know, it's like I'd rather know who I am as opposed to how clever I am to create that I am. Because that I am, I'm not. So, and inquiry makes that very clear.
I love it. And I think if you're watching, the really important thing, if you want to, if you don't want to, that makes no difference, but is to actually go and do some work on this, because talking about it, hearing about it is a great, it can be great, and it can also be a great distraction from actually looking at your own thoughts.
And it can be very confusing. I imagine someone trying to put all this information together, and it could sound everything from wacky to crazy to oh, what did they say? I've forgotten.
But
Yeah, that
as you go through a worksheet, you'll find that, or my experience is that when you start writing it, you might be feeling angry and upset, and everything's really serious. And by the time you question your way through to statement number 2, everything that you've written seems hilarious. And
it truly does.
and even the man we were talking
Waking up.
about from Lebanon, or who thought he was Palestinian, who it was, it was really sounded like really serious stuff. By the time he got to question statement number 2, he was laughing, he was giggling, he was just in stitches about things that he believed, ever since he started believing things.
Yeah, the dead can dance. They can. It seems.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ollie. Wonderful spending time with you.
Thanks.
And I hope in some way that we've served the
Yeah.
people who are so interested in mindfulness that would listen to your program.
Me too. And if you've watched all the way to the end, listen all the way to the end, head to thework.com, get a Judge Your Neighbor worksheet, watch some podcasts, some videos, so you can see the work in action, and just check out Katie's books and wherever she's teaching, because if you jump into it, it will completely change your life. Thanks so much, Katie, for your time and for your work and your energy.
Thank you, Ollie. Thank you for your good work.
You too.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.